allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have no school committee chair report. Mr. Stevens, Resource Committee, no report.
Resource or school building.
Any comment, questions? Seeing none. School building needs.
No, nothing for school.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Where are we going? Policy Committee,
Nothing to report.
no report from Policy Committee. Student Support Committee,
We have a meeting coming up Thursday, this Thursday, December 7th, 3:30 at South Street. We'll be talking about para coverage in the district and the district improvement plan. Right, so those are public meetings. Thank you.
any questions? Seeing none. School Personnel Committee, I have no report. Any questions on that? No need for, there's no Executive Committee report. And now, the student report.
So last week, students received notification about the AP incentive program, where they're getting paid $50 for every AP exam that they pass, which is not only exciting for students who've passed AP exams, but for students who are going to be taking them. You know, it's like a little, push to do better. Winter sports started last week, which is really exciting. And there's going to be an info session on December 6th at 7 p.m. for the Honors Academy and the STEM program.
At 7 p.m. I said that. Oh. This Saturday, December 9th, there's an AP Calculus and AP Statistics session at Narragansett High School. So there's a bus leaving from Fitchburg High at 7:30 for the students that are going, or they can drive themselves. And it's just extra practice and different collaboration with other students around our area to help prepare for the test. Next Thursday, December 14th, is the annual winter concert put on by the band and chorus. It's at 7 p.m. and it's free. And then next Friday, December 15th, the Current Events Club is hosting a movie night with Team Tiago, and it is for the Pediatric Cancer Support Organization. So there's a movie being shown at 5 and then another one at 7, and the tickets are $5 each, and students can purchase them from any member of the Current Events Club at school.
And the movie is?
I'm pretty sure it's the Polar Express.
Yeah, it's Polar Express, right?
My favorite movie.
I think I've ever seen it.
I just have a question. I might
Yes.
have missed it at the very beginning. Who is sponsoring the $50 incentive for the exams?
I'm not sure,
Oh, okay.
but
We know that.
Anybody?
Yeah, that was, isn't there,
Sure if that's grant
it's
money,
being gifted tonight.
or is it might be part of the AP.
Psycho.
I think it might be.
Yeah,
Or NIPRO.
Yes.
NIPRO.
NIPRO,
NIPRO,
okay.
So that's voluntary to go to these review sessions? Okay.
They're encouraged.
they offer like extra credit points or like quiz points if you go.
Okay.
So it's kind of,
So one bus would take everybody?
yeah.
Is it usually?
I think it's usually, I mean,
And then it's hosted by you guys at times too, right?
yeah,
So-
a lot of the sessions are at Fitchburg High School, especially those science ones usually. But when they're away, I think usually it's just either one or two buses, just depending. We get a head count like 2 weeks before. You kind of have to say whether or not you're going to go and if you need a ride, so then they know
Okay.
how many buses.
Can I just add something? You mentioned the December 14th concert, and just because I know this is happening right now, there's the wrapping booth at Searstown Mall that the band Parents Association puts on, and so if you need your presents wrapped, that's a fundraiser for the band, so
Yeah,
that's going on too.
thank you for mentioning that. That's a lifesaver every Christmas for me. I can't wrap any, but not only that, seriously, they do a beautiful job. I mean, they're really nicely presented, so go down, it's a great cause, and, they have different prices for the size of the boxes. Go a little over that. Just a suggestion. It's $5, give them 10, you know what I mean? It's for the band. Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to approve the minutes.
Make a motion?
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular school committee meeting of November 20th, 2017. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. I don't believe there's a need for executive session. Is that correct, Mr. Superintendent? There is not. Communications? Seeing none. We're at the public comment, 5-minute limit to make a public comment. Is there anyone here wishing to make a public comment? Seeing none. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, well, we've got some fun things tonight. The first is, if you look in the middle of the room, on the table, there's this beautiful sugar bowl. And if you think that's a big sugar bowl, you should see the creamer that goes with it. But that's the trophy that has not graced our halls for quite a few years, but it's back. And we've invited the coach, Tom DiGeronimo, and 2 of his players to come here and talk a little bit. First of all, to recognize them for their, it was a beautiful, beautiful game. It was a gorgeous day and just a great game, and the icing on the cake was that they won. So we thought, and actually Paula said she had never seen this trophy either. So, and anyone out there, we're trying to carbon date it. How far back
Yeah.
does that trophy go? So there's some folks doing some research.
Beyond me,
Mr. Stevens,
Mr.
do we know it goes at least as far back as when you played? So we're going to try to track it back and find out how long has this trophy been around. So Tom and the 2 players come up. Tom, introduce the players and tell us a little bit about the game and about how everybody's feeling right now about the team. Pull up another chair.
Introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
My name is Sal Figueroa, and I'm Tyree Preston. I'm the running back for Fitchburg High. I'm the left tackle.
Yeah, we know who you both are.
First of all, I'd like to thank the committee and Superintendent Ravenel, Assistant Superintendent Giaquinto, and Superintendent Jokler for having us tonight. We're very honored to be here, and, if it wasn't, a lot of people don't know, but it was a lot of help from a lot of people in this room that really made this happen. On my standpoint, my position that, I have at Fitchburg High School, if it wasn't for the support from our leadership and our school system, from the top down to our principal, our athletic director, I'm not sure I could have got it done the right way, because it had to be done the right way for these guys. I'm very honored to work with such great kids that we worked with this year. And it was about them. And they had a goal, and we set out a goal that, we were going to get better each week, and that by the end of the year, we were going to be playing our best football. And and I said this a lot, that it's about the kids. It's about our kids in our school. We have great kids, and I don't think sometimes they get the credit that they deserve. And I'll tell you, I've learned a lot. I hope they learned as much from me as I have from them. That, there were victories on the field, but there are also victories behind the scene where these young men grew up to be men. They learned a lot about caring about each other. They learned that showing emotions is okay. They learned about trust, and, I don't think we could have got to where we got at the end of the year if it wasn't their belief in one another and belief in the adults that worked with us. We had great coaches that worked with these kids every day. And, our goal, of course, was, to win, but our biggest goal was to teach these guys life lessons that they can take with them as they go on and hopefully further their education, they go on in life. And that was the biggest victory. And I've never been more proud of a group of kids. And it all came, it all came to, the high point on Thanksgiving morning. And, you know, when they went out there and they battled adversity, and we talked about adversity, about having a purpose, and about having a purpose every day in what they do in life and what they do in the football field. And that if they want something bad enough, they have to be willing to sacrifice and do what it takes to get that. And those are the things that, you know, I'm most proud of these guys about. And they worked extremely hard all year. They stayed together. I love them, you know, and that was a word we threw around a lot, the word love. And I don't think, you know, things would have happened if we didn't believe in, you know, the process we talked about. And, you know, they just went out and played an unbelievable game Thanksgiving morning. I couldn't have asked for a better effort out of our kids, our coaches, and it was great for the city of Fitchburg. I mean, that was the best part of it, to see people really, you know, embrace and be happy and proud of a group of men. And I told them before the game that this is their day. The city shut down and all eyes are on them. And, man, they really performed. And, you know, like I said, I couldn't be more proud of a group of kids, and they deserved it. They really deserved what they did.
Let's hear from you guys now.
You want to say, yeah, say a few words. Yeah.
What's the question again?
Your thoughts on the year? It was a great year.
At first, like my personal standpoint, at first I didn't know like what this mean, like trust the process.
Yeah.
Until like the end of the season. You know, we worked hard the whole off season. You know, like you said, we threw around "I love you" a lot, and I've been playing with him since, you know, freshman year. And I did like care about them. I do care about them, and honestly, I'm pretty nervous right now.
It's all right. Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm really nervous now.
Well,
I don't know what to say.
Are you both seniors?
Yeah, we're both seniors.
that's too bad.
No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You had a heck of a day, young man. Yeah.
To be honest, it's my line. It's
Yeah,
my team.
well, there you
It's all
go.
team
That's the
effort.
way to do
I
it.
can't.
Yeah.
I can't do nothing by myself.
That's right.
And,
That's
that's a
right.
life lesson you learn. Well, that's a life lesson you can learn for life.
Good for
can't
you.
really do nothing by yourself. You need people to be there to help you out.
Sure.
And that's what Coach D taught me personally, because honestly, I always try to do things by myself on my own. And, you know, I just started realizing that I needed people to be there. And, you know, football really taught me that. You know, now I could be ready for life, you know, for the real world, that I could help people out and they could help me out, and we could, like, get things done for, you know, stuff.
Mr. Preston, you got anything to add?
We had our up and downs this season, but our coaches always had us keep our heads up. We all believed in each other, and when it came down to perform on Thanksgiving, everyone gave it all what they had. Everyone knew they could trust everyone. I think what really helped was our burning of the cleats. That was the most emotions you saw on that team in a long time. During the burning of the cleats.
It's a tradition, right? You've been doing that for
Tradition.
years. Yeah.
A lot of emotions going around there. I think that's what helped us, you know, get the win. You know, people realized they could trust in each other more.
Right.
Yeah, I realized I could trust my team, like, completely, you know, because the whole season on how hard, like, the games we lost close games, and I keep joking.
That's all right.
Well, you gave us a great year.
I just-
Thank you.
I just wanted to-
Yeah.
First of all, it's okay to lose, because it teaches you that, you know, you win and you lose, there's both sides. But I never was on the sidelines, and this year I was on the sideline watching the game, and I could feel and hear the excitement from you guys. And when that game was over, I ran, because I saw you guys just all coming. And just piled, and but it was really something to watch. It really was. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, talk about pressure. I mean, I look to my left, there's the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the assistant superintendent. I look to my right, the mayor's over there. I thought I was in Dallas with, in Dallas with Jerry Jones down there on the sideline. But, you know, it's just, you know, one of the things too is, you know, and I'm a true believer on high expectations, and when you have high expectations for your kids, man, they're gonna come through. And we had high expectations for these guys, and I'll tell you, like I said, I hope they learn as much from me as I did from them, and I'll never forget this year and this group of kids, and they're gonna be missed.
You know, just I'm chairman of the Fitchburg High School Alumni Association, and the people I heard from that, you know, so proud of you young men. And for me, I got that trophy back with my teammates 60 years ago, 1957, and we hadn't won in 5 years. And believe me, we have never forgotten it. One thing, Coach Sullivan, who I loved, he told us, I was a back. Sal, he said, lineman, you should make the backs buy a ticket to the game because you do all the work.
Could I just say, guys, I mean, you are leaving a great legacy as you graduate Fitchburg High School, but you're also part of this, you know, this is the legacy, and now you will become alumni at the end of this year, and it's just I don't think I remember, I graduated from Fitchburg High, and you don't really appreciate it, I think, until you leave and you realize, wow, this is such a culture here in Fitchburg, and the Red Raider way that you guys talk about, and the great people that you've had as your mentors and coaches and assistant principals, that it's just a wonderful history that I think you guys will feel all your lives. And same thing, I was getting texts from people I graduated with, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago, sorry, and they were saying, this is great for Fitchburg, so thank you. You're going to leave a great legacy, and now you are part of that legacy, so thank you.
Never take it away from you. Never.
So what's next for you guys?
Honestly, I'm just trying to find a prep school, bring my grade up,
Yep.
get more film for colleges, and that's my main focus on right now.
Well, then, they're gonna be very interested in you, I'm sure.
Good move, yeah.
I'm trying to find the best college that has the right major I want to study in, and somewhere where I have a good atmosphere for football too.
Good.
Excellent.
Good luck. I had two incidents happen that I have to connect to this because it's just uncanny that they happened. Last week I was contacted by a periodical from Arizona, and they had heard about what we were doing with fees, that we had eliminated fees, and we had middle school sports, and they were interested, so we talked a lot about that, and I talked about the fact of Fitchburg Public Schools thinking it's a comprehensive opportunity, and that for a lot of kids, playing sports is what's going to have them coming to school. They're going to do good in academics and come to school. And then over the weekend, I was visiting a very close relative in the hospital, and of course, I was bragging about the football team and all of that. And he was telling me that he was only able to play sports. He played 3 sports in freshman year. He went to a Catholic school, and then the parents didn't have enough to pay the tuition, so he had to go to work. So he never got to play sports again. And you realize, and here he is, in his late 50s, still talking about that experience, that was something, so I think, goes unseen. But what we do in terms of using school choice money for fees and keeping a comprehensive opportunity and having a feeder program at the middle school, each of those little things are done separately, but they're all part, I think, of a culture. And when you and other students take advantage of that, those opportunities we give you, it makes everybody proud. So thank you very much, and thanks for bringing the trophy so that we can show it off. All right, great.
Thank you for doing what you said you were going to do.
Well, like I said, I got great kids, and it's about them, and it's always going to be about them.
It's always about the kids with you. Know
Thanks,
that.
Coach.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
I did bring these guys along with me to carry it because just way too. In the it was in the main office. Yeah.
Is that where it's going to stay, or?
I have no idea. I'll have to ask Ray that.
We have to get a
But
special
these
case
guys
for it.
want it. They want it shined up, so
Yeah, All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
We'll take good care of it.
So now, the kindness challenge. So we've got some of the kindest students from anywhere here from Rheingold, and we're going to hear a little bit about that program at Rheingold. So join us and give us your name and, yep. Here, why don't you, I think I can do it for you.
Hi, everybody.
So, at Rheingold Elementary, the great team of second and third grade teachers and myself got together, and we empowered the second and third graders to change the culture of the school. And one of the ways that they came up to changing the culture of the school is to be kind to each other. So, we went off and we taught guidance lessons to these guys about being kind and feelings and their friendships and how kindness evokes those feelings into them. So there's an example right there. So an example of the guidance lesson, which I did with them actually just this week, was we generated how they feel when they're kind versus how they feel when they're mean. And so that was actually second grade guidance lessons that these guys came up with these words all themselves. And we put them up on the board to show them the differences. And at the beginning of every lesson, what we do is we go in and they report kindness. So they write the kind acts that they have done since I have been in the room. So that's 1 week's worth of kindness. It has to be something that's done at school. For right now at school, they could do it in the cafeteria. They're encouraged to say hello to the bus driver. They can talk to the specialists, the teachers, everywhere in the school counts. And they write them down. So in 1 month, this is the kindness from Rheingold Elementary, and they total over 1,000 acts of kindness. And this is just
That's just one
second and
grade?
third. That is just second and third grade.
Wow.
Just second and third grade at Rheingold Elementary.
Just think of what the fifth graders will do, because they get kinder and kinder and
As
kinder
they get
as
up,
time
right?
goes on.
Right? But this is just second and third. So we have a couple of examples of students that couldn't be here tonight that they have given us about the kindness that they've done.
Hopefully this works. We're having some technical difficulties earlier today.
Oh, there it goes.
This is my those nice notes and it helps to be nicer to other kids.
It helps you get rid of them. Thank you. So Nico's in Mrs. Shalfo's class. Do you want to say a couple words about how this kindness journal all evolved with him?
Nico,
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Thanks.
Nico was kind of having a rough time staying focused and being kind to others, and was kind of down on himself. So I decided to turn it around, and like some children have a chart and they keep track of what they get done every day. I said, why don't we write down all the nice things that you get done? And he loved it, and it's turned him around like night and day. He's just busy recording. He's trying to do nice things for others, and he's getting his work done. And it's just been a very positive step for him.
Yeah.
And he was too shy to come here. So he
was.
let me record.
So we recorded him.
Yeah, well,
But just
whatever
turning
works.
that around and putting it in a positive really worked for him.
Yep. And here's another example. And this is a student,
This is Jayla.
Jayla,
She's in my class.
Mrs. Sari's class.
She's very shy. I offered for her to come and she didn't want to come, but she let me record her. She had a whole list of things, and this was her most favorite kindness that she showed to another
Do
student.
that for my friends.
And she says she really likes when she feels like she can stand up for her friends and support her friends.
And when we say they come up with a list, I mean, they come up with a list. These guys have gone from, when we first started this, the team of teachers, myself, they were recording maybe per class 15 to 20 4 weeks ago. They are up now to over 100 per class in 1 week. It's fascinating how they've
Do you
taken
guys
off
feel
of
like
this.
it's changed our school or your classrooms?
Yeah.
All right, so This is Liliana. She's in
Mrs. Dancos's class, yeah?
I helped someone on the computer because their computer wasn't working as well as mine.
So where that might have been something at the beginning of the year that students might not have thought to do, they're learning to think of others and think of their other students and their needs and be empathetic.
And this is Alex, and Alex is actually here tonight.
Yeah, Alex is filling in for Nico. So.
You weren't shy, you're
Nope,
like,
nope.
Gave someone the opportunity to do my job because they really wanted to, and I was like, okay, you can do it.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there was this kid in my class who he really didn't get to do his job as much as he was hoping to. And what I did was I let him fill in my job, and I helped him out a bit to get the computers because I have a computer job, and well, he got the hang of it, and I thought that was like nice to do it for him because he really wanted to.
So this is Ronaldo. He's in my class, and he's very kind to everyone. He actually just won our second grade Roadrunner of the Month award for his second time. So Ronaldo, how do you feel when you're nice to other students? Because you're nice to other students all the time. How does it make you feel?
It feels like exciting in a good way.
Exciting in a good way. And we have is this from Mrs. Shelf? Lila's from Mrs. Shelf class too?
Yeah, Alex is from Mrs. Suarez's class. Yeah.
So Lila, can you give us an example of something kind that you've done, and maybe in the past couple weeks for another student?
I asked Mrs. Shalfo if she needs help with anything.
So we're working on being kind to other teachers as well.
Yeah. And do you think it's changed since we've started doing that? Can you tell them how like things have changed at school?
Well, at the beginning of the year, Miss Suarez's class was kind of, it always lost it. And when we started doing the kindness challenge, that's when we flipped to a whole nother level, which more people are doing more kind things than they used to, or they have a change in behavior as well. And it's kind of helped my class a lot.
that's great.
Ronaldo, what do you think?
Well, like, sometimes, like, some people, like, well, at the beginning of the year, like, everyone didn't know what to do, so, like, we were kind of nice at the beginning, but then we got more nicer and nicer and nicer.
Good job. Diane, what do you think?
At the beginning of the year, everyone keep blurting out.
Blurting out.
Then,
Shouting out.
like, then they keep getting less blurting out. And some let them, and then they get nicer and nicer at the year, more of the year.
That's great.
Is there anything else you guys want to say? You three, that you guys want to say about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to say that, Miss Karen, I'd like to thank you for the kindness challenge because it's helped a lot of people in second and third grade.
You know what? I want to say something to you guys. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
thanking me. But it's a fantastic team of kids that you guys and the teachers and administration, right? That we all band together and we're all being so much kinder for each other. So I want to thank you guys because you guys did the work. And I'm so proud of all of you.
Any
So-
questions for the panel before they go off to bed?
Are you inspiring the older grades to act kindly? Yeah?
Yes,
That's good.
because my mom's class is a tough class because And when I come back every time on Wednesdays, which is when Miss Karen comes into our room, I say, Mom, why don't you inspire your class to, do kind things?
Well, I can actually add to that. He actually leaves little motivational affirmations on the walls.
That's
for
awesome.
A fourth grade class.
Oh, that's
Ideas
awesome.
for kindness.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good
Well,
for
I
you.
think not just Rheingold School, but I think our whole country and world right now could use a lot more kindness and the way people talk to one another and what they do. So if we're looking for the hope, it's right here. It's
Yeah.
right in front of us as you move through the school system and go out into the world. So thank you. And to the teachers, you're here tonight, the parents are here tonight. I know you've all had a long day, but this is great stuff, good stuff. Again, it's not just academics, not just sports. It's this, too. It's all of the things. So thank you.
And
Nice
so-
job.
So what we're gonna do with them is, because they've embraced it so much, they've really embraced this, is we're gonna contact Channel 5 and see if they will come in and do a shout out.
That
For the
would be
students?
great, yeah.
We're gonna have a T-shirt contest for the second and third graders, so they're gonna design their own T-shirts.
Nice.
And we're gonna go out and see if we can find a company to help fund the T-shirts, and they can all wear their T-shirts when they do that. So that's what we're working for, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
Well, we'd be glad to work with you on that.
That's
So
awesome.
when you're ready to do that, let us know. We'll
thank
be
you.
Glad to
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
You're awesome.
All right, off to bed.
Awesome.
Do your homework and,
Oh, boy.
all right, so just a quick update. Just a quick update on Lonjo Middle School. So Wednesday night, we had a parent meeting and invited parents to come in and talk to us about, what we were doing in the school. We had about 20 parents that came. We had a really good meeting, sharing a lot of information with them and letting them know how the communication would go. The process for relocation has already begun. The classrooms have all relocated from off of the fourth floor into the rest of the building. There's a new schedule. Everything is organized. Principal Shalafu and the staff have just done an incredible job. I mean, they really have taken this on and doing it in such a way that is the least disruptive to students while we begin the work. We had a team of people that met on Thursday morning and spent the whole morning walking through the building and making plans and looking at what has been done so far and what needed to be done in the future as we, move this through, with the goal being to get Lonjo ready so that it can house us for 4 to 5 years while we do a bigger plan, somewhere else. So we've been working on that update on the meetings from Thursday. I just finalized the update today. I'll be putting a little, finishing it up tonight, and then we're getting it translated into Spanish. So that updated, what I told everyone was that on a regular basis, we would give general updates of the work and the progress and what's going on. So that update will go out to the parents and the staff tomorrow, and I'm having everything translated into English and Spanish so that and somebody who might not understand the language can know exactly what's going on. So that's, the update there.
Is that going to be posted on the district website? I feel like somebody asked that at that meeting.
What we're doing right now is it's going to the school, and then I'm letting the school decide how they want it, because really this is a school issue. It affects Lonjo, so we're really focused on informing the staff and the parents from that school. But I think what Craig said, that he would be posting all of this on their
Yeah.
website. And
I did
know-
see the report,
Yeah, it was up there.
the Pagano
Yeah.
report is on there.
So I'm trying to work everything through the school
Okay.
and keep it there so that I'm sure that all of the information that affects the students and the families and the staff at that school are getting the information that they need.
Okay.
So we have our school improvement plan updates, and the first school is Crocker Elementary.
Andre, before we get coming up, Anna, but before we get into that, I just want to mention, I want to say publicly that I really appreciate your efforts, your staff, but particularly, as you mentioned, Principal Shalafo's efforts and his staff in making this transition and relocation off the fourth floor. People have to understand something. We have been working on this for months. This is not something new to us. But this is years of deferred maintenance. And we're addressing it now as a city and in partnership with the schools. And we just want the public to understand that. And we're moving forward with replacing the roof.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort, and, now we've got a number of companies that we're working with, so there's a lot of coordination that's going on and the like, but it's going, I think the communication is going very well, and the planning is going very well.
I mean, I can speak to that as a parent. I've got emails from Craig. It was an information night. The kids were all informed about it by their teachers. I mean, really, I didn't even go to the information night. His email was so clear. I feel like I know everything that's going on.
Good.
My daughter's in 7th grade.
I didn't realize it.
My oldest is in 7th grade.
Your
Yeah.
daughter was a 7th grader there?
Yeah, she
Okay. All right, take it away.
All right. Good evening. I'm very happy to present a presentation on somewhat on school improvement, but on some data that we had last year. And I always like to start with our core beliefs at Crocker. And so the first one is the success of our academic curriculum is dependent on the effectiveness of our social emotional. And I know most of you heard that before, but if we don't address what our students need socially and emotionally, we have no chance of having them achieve academically. And ultimately, that's what we want, because we know that it's through academics and learning that's going to change their life, and that's how we help them start their counter narrative. Also, and this isn't all of our students, but it's a lot of them. Students who live in poverty are bombarded with negative messages in their daily lives. This fosters a fixed mindset, which we must combat by teaching that failure is data for future success. Living in poverty, you hear negative language a lot. No, don't do this, you can't do that. A lot of it is set in what you can't do. So we try to counteract that with character trait programs and some of the other things that we do at Crocker. And you'll hear a little bit more about that as the presentation continues. So this is our grade 3 ELA math data from last year. We don't have as much data as we typically do, just because this is a baseline year. But overall, we're pretty happy with how our students performed. So thank you for the reminder. Working on 2 computers here. So our third graders in English Language Arts, 19% of them were exceeding expectations. 42% were meeting expectations. 30% were partially meeting expectations, and 9% were not meeting expectations. So if you compare that with the state, we're considerably higher than the state average. We're pleased with that. We'll be very interested to see how we do next year. So we have some data points. When we compare this to 2014, it's actually slightly higher than 2014. And 2014 was the MCAS test. Last year was MCAS 2.0. So we're very pleased with how our third grade did in ELA. Excuse me, I went a little bit ahead of myself. And if we look at math, we had 18% of our third graders exceeding expectations. 53% of them were meeting. 24% were partially meeting, and 6% were not meeting expectations. So again, compared to the state average, we did considerably, better than the state did. So we're pretty happy about that. We're really happy that we only had 5 students not meeting expectations. So besides students who moved into Crocker in 4th grade, we're really starting off the year in 4th grade with only 5 students who didn't meet expectations, and we know that already, so we have action plans for them. So again, very, very pleased with it. Our third grade teachers are incredible. They're an extremely strong team. The special ed teachers in Title I, I wouldn't trade any of them. It's their hard work that really get these results. So 4th grade, our 4th grade ELA, 11% of our school was, fourth graders were exceeding. 42% of them were meeting. 42% were partially meeting, and 5% were not meeting expectations. So, again, it's higher than the state average. We're going to decrease that number of students partially meeting expectations last year. But if you compare this to the last time we took MCAS in 2014, it's right on par. And it was computer-based last year, whereas in 2014 it was paper pencil. So overall, we're very pleased with the results. Again, we're going to make some changes and do some planning to address the deficits from the item analysis on the test. But overall, we were happy with those scores. And if you look at math, we had 3% of our students exceeding expectations. 55% were meeting expectations, 40% were partially meeting expectations, and 2% not meeting. So actually, it's the not meeting expectations that we're kind of most proud of. So we only had 2 students not meeting expectations in our 4th grade. For math, and in ELA, it was only 5. So we feel like we sent on some 4th grade students on to middle school who were really prepared to take, to really thrive. But again, this is all because of our teachers. Our 4th grade last year, we had a teacher out for the majority of the year. We had people kind of step in and really just take over and do what they needed to do for those kids. Our coaches are incredible, Robin Pierce and Gretchen Gallett, who really worked with the teachers who took over for that long-term subbing and caught them up to speed and made sure the instruction was incredible. And our Title I teachers, who I wouldn't trade for anyone, they just really early literacy experts who can really zone into what students need. Our special education and ELL teachers, I mean, we have a terrific team over there. Everybody stepped in and went above and beyond to make sure that we got through some of the hiccups we had for our 4th grade year. And again, we're pleased with the results. And compared to 2014, I believe this math is actually, it's an increase, a slight increase. And considering that this was computer-based and not paper pencil, we're very pleased with how we did. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about what our goals are. Our goals don't really change too often. Our goals are basically to improve the academic skills of our students so that they can begin to create counter-narratives for themselves, a narrative where they can see themselves or people that look like them in professional jobs and successful in the future. So we do that basically by doing what we've been doing, but tweaking it so we get improve it a little bit year by year. We're a co-teaching school. Thank you. We're a co-teaching school. We want all of our students exposed to grade level curriculum, whether they're in special education, they're an ELL student, or whatever the challenge may be for them. We co-teach for special education, and we're doing some co-teaching with our ELL students also. And it's working. That the days of taking students who are struggling, pulling them out of the room, going slower, and then waiting for this miraculous day to happen when all of a sudden they are caught up and can rejoin the rest of the class is gone, and we're aware of that. And we have 100% buy-in with that. And the nice thing is our teachers really, I don't want to say fight, but I'm going to say fight to keep students with them, right? So everybody has ownership, and the argument is that who's going to take them, it's who's not going to take them. And we really appreciate that. Thank you. So we do this by providing professional development to teachers, and we're continuing to use Lucy Calkins, and we're refining our practice with that. We have meetings in math and meetings in ELA bi-weekly. One of the things that we don't do is we don't submit a professional development plan at the beginning of the year. Of course, there are things that we want to work on, but what we do is we walk through classrooms with our coaches and other admin, and we look to see what actually teachers need help with. And sometimes that actually comes from the teachers themselves. So the professional development is designed based on a need at any given time. We're lucky enough to have really high quality coaches that can do that. So everything we do now is broken into tiers, right? Everything's tier 1, 2, and 3. So that's both for data, and how we provide interventions for students, but it's kind of how we look at the school as a whole and how we provide social emotional support. So we look at tier 1 things, are things that we can do that really affect 80% of the school. So setting up all the routines and procedures, arrival, dismissal, lunch, recess. If that is working for you and working well, that calms the rest of the school down, and it allows your support staff, guidance, administration, and whoever else to actually work with kids in crisis rather than working on recess issues and lunch issues and things that happened on the bus. So we feel we have a really good handle on that. Casey Bolak, my assistant principal, and Christine Gerard, the student program support administrator, are incredible. They pick up the slack for me quite often. And our guidance counselors, Mrs. Phillips and Ms. Fahey, are we wouldn't trade them either. And they have a good handle on the school and the daily running. I was out on Friday, and so was Mr. Bolak. The school day went on without a hitch. There really were no issues that they couldn't handle. So our tier 2 and 3 are really, for any kids that the tier 1 doesn't work for, we have other things going on to try to provide that support. And this is academic or social emotional. So we'll have lunch bunch with guidance or with me or another administrator, and we can work on how to make friends. Persevering, they typically bring work in to do with me, which isn't always popular, but, we get done their work. But if they get it done, we talk about the sense of accomplishment. You know what, you might have missed eating lunch with your friends and you had to eat with me, but you have this done now, and you're going to be able to you're going to have recess the next day. You're not going to have to worry about it. You're not going to have to worry about your homework. We started to, actually very recently, provide some reteach time for teachers during morning meeting where guidance and administration goes into 3rd and 4th grade to do growth mindset work with students. We're trying this as a replacement for our mentoring program, just because it's really hard to get people to come in consistently to do mentoring with 3rd and 4th graders. But it seems, so we're going to be the mentors. It seems to be working so far. I'll be happy to report out on that next year. And then our tier 3s are really working with collateral agencies. We're still providing therapy to about 55 kids in school during the day. We work with DCF, as Paula knows. So we had a conversation about DCF today. We are on the phone with them constantly, making sure that our students that are with us in DCF custody are getting everything that they need in order to help change their lives. And of course, there's always special education as a tier 3 intervention. So that is it. Any questions?
Questions?
Have you had much staff turnover then at Crocker?
No, not too much. We've had retirements. Last year, I hired 2 teachers, and they're both very good hires. So no, we have not had much at all.
And so the teams that are together now, they've been together for a while?
Most of them. Our 4th grade team is fairly new for the building. We had a teacher transfer in because of an opening, and we hired a teacher from Everett. Besides that, our teams are have been fairly solidified for quite some time. There's always some movement inside the building, but not a ton.
Adam, I like seeing that you notify parents on a daily basis when there are classroom issues?
Yeah.
You're on the phone with the
Yeah,
parent.
so
That's great.
we
Yeah.
call all day, every day with just about everything. Yeah.
Important.
The easiest way to solve a problem.
Yeah. Great.
Hey, great, thanks so much,
Thank you.
Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get them to do and have everybody quiet? That was so impressive, I have to tell you.
I can't take any credit for that. Teachers do that in their classroom, so it's just a routine that they
Responsive
know.
classroom, is that what that is?
Well,
It's-
that's part of it,
Sort of?
that's part of it's part of responsive classroom. It's that the clapping. I started clapping. I think it was my first year as assistant principal there, just because I couldn't get another way for them to hear me. But the teachers saw that I was doing that in the lunches, because I used to have every lunch duty when I was assistant principal starting. And so they were just backing me up. And so they changed their routine to match mine to make it easier on me, because I was in a first-year assistant principal. They had no idea what he was doing. And, you know, when you have 24 classroom teachers all doing that from the first day of school for 5 years, you know, everybody does it.
Just
So,
for
yeah.
people at home, can you explain, because I don't think they know what you're talking about.
sorry.
That's the
So
question.
it's just a clap of that, you know, any adult in the cafeteria or really anywhere in the school claps. The students repeat the same cadence, and then their hands go up and mouths close. And it works. It actually, when the cafeteria is full, it's rather impressive. I mean, 600 kids, they clap, hands go up, and it's fairly silent. So,
Takes about
about 5 seconds, yeah.
Well, the day of the
Everyone's-
Peace Project that Deb Jeffries
Project
put
Peace,
on,
yeah.
Project Peace, the entire cafeteria was full. I mean, I think every student was there, and it really was. It was a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
That it just,
So that's tier one,
Gosh.
right? It's
Yeah.
routines and procedures. So if everybody's doing the same thing, it makes your job a lot easier.
Very
And
impressive.
I think a lot of times those really simple things we forget about. It can make a big difference.
We used to use a bell, it was very
Yeah, all the
effective,
chimes.
but I like the clapping much better.
Yeah, I would lose a chime if I had it, Pete. I wouldn't be able to find it after a week.
But it's
My
important
hands are
that
attached.
the whole staff has to buy into it. So it's a culture that's built. Because if you have 25 people and 5 people say, I'm not doing it,
Right.
then when the children are in that classroom, it's not being done. So I think a lot of the credit goes to the whole staff of creating this climate where kids want to know where they stand and what they're supposed to do and and when they do, it makes them feel secure. And when
That
they
was
feel
part of,
secure,
that was
they-
part of
they-
responsive,
they-
that was
right,
part
they
of
wanna be good,
responsive
as we saw
classroom.
with
Every
these
teacher
kids.
had a little
Yeah.
bell in the
Yeah.
classroom
Yeah.
that they used, you know.
Yeah.
How do you build the culture at Crocker? I mean, what specifically, what are you doing?
Well, you know, it's easier now. We're not building, we're maintaining. It's, the policing is really done by the staff. So when we have somebody new that comes in, it's great because people fall in line very quickly because everybody's doing it. To start, I mean, I think what we did was, and what we still do, is teachers have a lot of input of what we do. So there are many times where someone will come through my door and tell me it's not working. And people are comfortable doing that. And if we agree and that's really what's not working, we change it. So that was done really formally in the past with culture and climate meetings. And we would have those quite frequently. Now it's, you know, they're about 3 times a year. And we'll do those during focus groups. And we do one. We do have one during one of the half days towards the end of the year to make some changes for the upcoming year. But it's those can be tough too because you're really opening up to ask staff what's not working, what don't you like, what we can change. So it's done silently. They write on Post-its and they put it on poster boards based on different topics. We then kind of go through them as a staff, organizing what if anything themes that are common, and then we plan on how to make those changes. I mean, we usually wait about 3 days to stop being upset because, to be quite honest, they're tough to read because typically it's about things that administration is failing at. But it's not done to jab us. It's just done because, you know, this is getting a little loose and we need to tighten it up. So we kind of go through our stages of grief from hearing it, but then we make changes. And some of the changes we can make like the next day. And when you have a meeting like that and people are giving suggestions on to make changes and you make changes the next day, people are pretty happy about that. So if they can see that the suggestions are being listened to and you know, there's something actually happening, then you get a lot of buy-in. So I mean, 99.9% of all the success that Crocker's had is due to the teachers in that building. We just try not to mess it up. We listen to them as much as we can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam.
Lourdes, with your team, hear about McKay Arts Academy.
So I just want to make sure that everyone has met my team. So we'll go around.
I'm Becky Leva, the Student Program Support Administrator.
Fred McClellan, Vice Principal.
Okay. So I wanted to begin by just giving McKay students at a glance for people to see our demographics and for people to see who our subgroups at McKay represented at McKay are. And part of it is because I wanted to show that I think historically we look at McKay as a school that has a different demographics than the rest of the district, when in fact that's no longer the case. It may have been many years ago, but McKay's population represents and mirrors very closely the rest of the city. And for myself as a principal, one of the areas or the subgroups that I have looked at more so this year than ever before is the high needs percentage of students at McKay. So 68.2% of students at McKay are labeled as high needs, and that includes students who receive ESL services, students who receive special education services, students that may have been retained at some point in their history of as a student. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then the economically disadvantaged group of 55.9. So at McKay, our population is pretty similar to the rest of the district. And this part here, this chart here just represents the participation rate of the assessment for MCAS 2.0. And we knew that participation was critical in this process. And I want to make sure that people understand what feat it is for us to make sure that we meet the participation rate. Because a lot of times, students are absent for one reason or another. Students may be hospitalized on a medical leave, on vacation. So we really have to coordinate the process to ensure that we would meet that criteria. McKay has almost 700 students, and we test grades 3 to 8. So that means we are testing 6 grades, and for ELA and math, and then 2 grades for science, technology, and engineering. So the process along of coordinating and the logistics that it takes to administer and proctor the test, it's labor intensive. This past year, for the first time, we had 4th and 8th graders taking the computer-based assessment, and all the other grades took the paper-based. So there was a lot of learning, I think, for all of us. For students, as they interacted with the test on the technology and using the technology, and for us coordinating, I learned a lot and spent a lot of time with Eileen Spinning and Patrick. So it was a lot of great learning that I think will prepare us for our full computer-based testing this year. Last year, we had a significant change in staffing patterns. And I'm just giving you the overall glance at our baseline results. And I am here to share with you what the baseline is, understanding that we have a lot of room for improvement, and we have the commitment, the right people on the job, and the tools that it requires for us to move our students forward. Last year, for a variety of reasons, we had a lot of changes of staff in the middle of the school year. And we know that over 90% 3% of student achievement depends solely on the teacher. And when you have a substitute teacher that is not always the same person, it does create some great challenges for student achievement. We have people out on maternity leave. We had people or teachers that got offers and professional opportunities outside of the classroom, and people were empowered to take the next step that unfortunately didn't happen in June. Some of them happened in the middle of the school year, which present a huge conundrum and challenge for all of us. I think we found ways to continue to support our students and move students forward as well as we could. And I'm excited to know that this year our staffing has been stabilized and we have consistent teachers in the classroom, which I am confident that will allow for the data to look differently for next year. Some of the highlights that I can share with you on this data, when I looked at, and this is the big picture, when you dig deeper into this data, we have, for instance, in the 5th grade in math, that it's hard to see or impossible to see on this chart, is that students that were economically disadvantaged had a 35 student growth percentile. Our Latino students had great improvement in the 5th grade. And again, when you have 3 teachers in one team, if you have 2 teachers out, that's 2/3 of your team right there. And we have an absolutely strong 5th grade teacher in math, and we can see the great results that produced. When we look at our 6th grade, another grade that had one teacher that wasn't there throughout the year, we have in ELA, and I want to note that we are comparing our scores to the state, because that is ultimately the goal. We could have compared it with the district, which is, as we know, not all of it to the state level, but our goal is really to move our students to meet or exceed the performance of the state. So for 7th grade math, that was another grade where we saw that our students exceeded even the district student growth percentile, specifically for the subgroup of students with high needs. And so that's something that we applaud. And then in the 8th grade math, I believe the highest in the district, certainly more space to grow to meet the state. But we see that, again, our high needs group did better than the other subgroups at McKay. So the trend in math in general is that we're challenging high needs group, and they're showing greater growth, and we'll continue to work on those. Our 8th grade team data in general was stronger than all the other grades at McKay. And in the past, our middle school had been together for a long time and was a strong, high-achieving group that really, I don't want to say carried the 3rd and 4th grade, but they did significantly positively impacted our whole school data, and with all the changes that certainly showed in our achievement. So what do we do? Where do we go from here? Well, we know that teachers matter to achievement more than anything else. And with that, it's our full commitment to provide the support for teachers to stay with us and for us to stabilize our staff and to ensure that our students' growth it's much stronger next year than what it was this year. We are implementing a professional development calendar that is based directly and solely on teachers' needs. And we are identifying those needs in a variety of manners. Some of them based on staff needs assessment surveys, but also on, by doing walkthroughs. So this year, I have been very excited to be working with Gretchen Gallett. She is the literacy coach at Crocker, and Crocker and I are sharing Gretchen. And one would think that having one coach working with two schools, I'm sure that we're fortunate that she's highly organized, but I'm sure that that was a panic for some people, including myself. I don't have a full-time literacy coach, but you know what? It has been a great experience for both of us, because I am now doing walkthroughs with Gretchen in the morning, and also expanding to doing walkthroughs with the math coach. So we're going into classrooms together, and to have someone, an expert in a particular content, has been really beneficial to us as an admin team. So we'll go into classrooms, make observations, and then identify trends, and then based on those trends, we look at what are the needs of our teachers for professional development opportunities. So we are creating targeted literacy intervention plans for students, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about data meetings. And then we're expanding technology to promote digital literacy, not just for students, but for teachers as well. And we're expecting that teachers are using the technology in their practice, that teachers are coming to meetings with the computer, that they're documenting the intervention plan for students in a digital form, so it can be shared, that we can interact with it and keep track of students' progress and monitor that together. So we're also using common planning time, which is a team time that happens every week for coaches to meet with teachers, and then administration also takes part of those meetings with a very laser focused on assessment and data analysis, and looking at curriculum, ensuring that teachers have what they need to do their job, that teachers are following the curriculum and keeping the appropriate pace, because we know that when teachers don't provide or don't keep up with the pacing, it adds up, it snowballs. So if we have a teacher that needs support in making sure that students are moved through the curriculum, our coaches are there to support teachers and to move students forward. Sometimes we see on assessment that students don't do well, not because they don't know the material, because they didn't learn it, just because they haven't been taught yet by the time the benchmark was given. So making sure that teachers are keeping up with the pacing and providing teachers with the support to be able to do that, it's one of our new focus for this year. And then we are promoting the Tier 1 and Tier 2 behavior interventions that you have heard about before, making sure that we're implementing responsive classroom and developmental designs, not just in the morning during advisory, and then once advisory ends, we forget that we're still developing student social skills, that we're still nurturing and cultivating relationships with students that happens throughout the day, including when things don't go well and someone broke a rule or made a mistake. It's using those experiences of when a student makes a mistake to learn from the experience and to have a growth mindset and move forward. Another thing that we are doing, that we are still doing, I should say, because we were doing that before, is having our leadership team meetings every month, where teachers that represent different stakeholders in the school meet with me, and then we talk about any issues that we have in the school and what can we do together to address those issues. So sometimes those may be around culture and climate, sometimes it may be concerns about how to address a particular issue, I don't know, related to discipline, and et cetera. And then for the innovation team meetings are also happening every month, where a group of teachers and I get together, and teachers talk about what are some new ideas or innovative practices that they would like to bring into the school. Like most recently, and then you'll hear Becky talk about the leader in me, and teachers talked about how do we highlight students that are doing well? How do we celebrate students that are following the rules and doing what is expected of them, rather than spending our time on students that are not doing what is expected of them? So how do we encourage students to do the right thing by acknowledging their efforts? So we're going to have our monthly assemblies focused on a particular habit, and you'll hear more about that. So that came out of the innovation team, and then they bring it to the leadership team, and then together we make decisions and find the best ways to support our students and staff. And it's really providing teachers with a voice to solve problems, and for everyone to own that we have a part in the positive and also in the challenges. So our next steps of things that what we're doing differently this year.
One thing that is new for us is our STEAM curriculum. STEAM is based on the Fitchburg's STEM initiative, STEM, which refers to science, technology, engineering, and math. Because McKay is an innovation school focusing on the arts, we adopted STEAM. STEAM is the same thing as STEM, with the A being arts. One way that it works is it's a co-teaching model, so we actually have a STEAM teacher that works very carefully with our teachers of the arts, music, and drama. And what that teacher does is they work together with the arts teacher, and they do lesson plans which integrate these standards from science, technology, engineering, and math. An example of this is one of our art teachers is working with the STEAM teacher, was doing a form of painting which relied heavily on gravity. So the kids would have to use little water droplets and follow the paint, and use gravity as the tool or the medium, essentially, for the painting. And this is done in a lot of different areas. So again, with music and with drama as well across our grade levels.
So as an innovation school, we have a partnership with the Fitchburg Art Museum, and we have a commitment to finding more ways to connect with the museum in more meaningful ways. And to do that, Laura, the education director, Laura Howick, the education director from the museum, will be attending our common planning meetings, because those team meetings evolve around discussing curriculum, and for her to be more familiar with the content of the standards-based curriculum that we deliver, to find those connections with exhibits, works of art, and different artists that the museum is involved with.
So as Lourdes just mentioned a few minutes ago at the Leader in Me, one of our social emotional learning initiatives this year is really going through a school-wide transformation process, really. It's an exciting process for us, really shifting the culture, not only with our staff, but with our students. And so this particular program is based on the book that probably most of you are aware of, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And it's a curriculum, lesson plans that are put in place in the classrooms they're separated by grade level, so that we can really teach our students 21st century leadership and life skills. So it really empowers our students to know that they can be leaders, and it's all based on the 7 habits that are laid out in the book, excuse me. We spent 2 days prior to the school starting doing professional development, so that as a staff, as teachers and administration, we knew the language ourselves. We knew the 7 habits. We live it, we breathe it, we speak it. And what's exciting now is, as we've been going through and teaching the 7 habits in the classrooms, as the students are now suddenly speaking the language, using, and that's really exciting to see. We're using assemblies, we're teaching a different habit each week. Everything is really centered around this Leader in Me project, and I think we're starting to see some really good results from it. And we're only in year 1, and this is a multi-year project, so a process.
And part of this process was for staff members to have an accountability partner. So we have check-ins, and we even do that over the weekend. I make sure, have you been taking care of yourself, which is to sharpen your saw. So it's really a great transformational approach. So another thing that we're working on is doing data meetings in a similar way that Gretchen has been doing them at Crocker, where we have a multidisciplinary approach. So in the past, it was teachers and the coaches and administrator would sit at the table and look at a student data and then create a plan to support the student. And now we have the guidance counselor comes in and it's part of the meeting. The special education teacher is part of the meeting. Becky, as the special education administrator, also partakes in the meeting. So we're looking at the whole child. It's not just looking at the child with an academic focus, on academic lens, but looking at the child, the social emotional aspect, and all of these other factors that we know influence achievement. So that's something else that we're doing that is new. And then we'll continue to develop opportunities for students to learn from different types of art. And I know in the past, school committee, and I know Andrea and I had plenty of conversations around how do we provide opportunities for students to learn instrumental lessons. And we were very fortunate, and I'll come another time to talk to you about an opportunity to partner with Indian Hill. And we currently have a teacher that comes in every week and is teaching instrumental lessons to our students. And our plan is to be a feeder to the high school. And so our piano lessons after school have continued for a second year this year, and so we'll continue to offer that. And then we are re-engineering our partnership with Fitchburg State University in looking for ways that we can collaborate, so it's a more beneficial partnership for both parties. And this year we have Dr. Rob Shapiro partnering with one of our teams that really needed support. We have a cohort of kids with really high needs. So he implemented PBIS with that particular team, and we are seeing incredible, incredible results. We're very proud about that. And then we will partner with Sally and their Positive Pet Plan program. And then we now have counseling in school, which is something that we're doing that is new. In the past, I had the feeling of if students are not in the classroom, they're not learning. We're not pulling a student to sit with a therapist. Well, guess what? If they're not ready to learn because of any social emotional issues, then it's really not the most effective in the classroom. So that's all we have.
Any questions?
Questions?
Thank
you.
Can I'm sorry. I just, when the other middle schools presented, because you are the unique K through 8, so I had asked them a question, how do the administrators really kind of get feedback from teachers? And I heard about the leadership team and the innovation team, but specifically about classroom management and specifically about questions that they have with how discipline is handled. And I'm just kind of curious how that happens for you guys.
For us, it's an ongoing conversation. A lot of times we meet with individual teams, and Fred can also talk about that. We sit with parents and with teachers on a regular basis. Sometimes it's at the end of the day, going into a teacher's classroom when you know that there was a difficult situation or a student that struggled, and it's that constant ongoing communication. We text with teachers all the time, which is another way to communicate, make ourselves available.
I think we have a number of new staff, myself included. So I think a big part of what we've been trying to do is get everybody on the same page. And when we use a multi-tiered approach to discipline, there's a lot of different pieces in play. One of the things that we really do need to do is, and we're going to be accomplishing in our instructional leadership team, is we are going to be approaching a tiered framework for approaching problematic behavior or and to make sure that what is happening in the classroom is we are maximizing learning time. I think right now we're in because we have our elementary academy, we have our middle school academy, we have several different approaches to discipline. And if we're all going to come around to responsive classroom and developmental designs in our upper grades, we have to know what that means. Working with the 7 Habits has started that process, mostly because one of the most effective things that you can do, this is especially the case with the responsive classroom, of which there are many parts. A lot of people think a lot of it is just that morning meeting and that settles the day. That's not even close to it. One of the things that the 7 Habits has done was create a common language, which is one of the most difficult things about responsive classroom, is getting people to use that teacher language for those situations. So when we are talking to kids, kids are now responding to us with things like, well, at first they're very frustrated about it. One of the habits is seeking to understand before being understood. And at first the kids are, Mr. McClellan, I'm really seeking to understand. But now, they're getting to adopt these practices, and the kids will say to you in the hallway, Mr. McClellan, I was proactive, I did this. Mr. McClellan, I'm trying to seek to understand, and that language is taking place, is now the kids are picking that up. And I think that really is the most difficult piece.
And I'd just want to add, with that habit, seek to understand before being understood, I think that is something as an administration we have taken on as a habit that we all need to embrace. And so we are spending a lot more time, I feel like, really truly listening to the staff and faculty and finding out what it is, trying to understand them before we even begin looking at what the issues are, what our thoughts are.
And I think last summer when we went to the Model School Conference, one of the things that they talked about throughout the entire time was the importance of building relationships. So I have embraced that as it's not just building relationship with students, but also with staff. And in the morning, every day I meet with a different team and with Gretchen, and that gives me the opportunity to start the day with a different team every day in the elementary. So it's been really a positive for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Thank you. Hey, Rheingold. This is Clark.
Good evening.
Spread some kindness, Martha.
I've got kindness. I am spreading kindness. All right, so, hello.
Hello.
So, we're starting our Rheingold presentation with our mission statement. This is a mission statement that we came up with 3 years ago. We sat down as an ILT team. We do a summer summit. We meet for 2 days every summer. We've done that. This summer, again, we did that. We looked at this and we said, okay, is this still who we are and who we think we are and where we're going? As we looked at this, we said, yes, it is. We've made progress. We're making progress. We're going to keep this. We still think that our goal is, our mission, our goal is to provide the highest quality education in a secure, positive, challenging environment in partnership with our parents and knowing the belief that all children can and will learn. So we can look at some of our test scores. This is a baseline year, as we all know. So as we look, we have places where we need to grow. But we also have some places, some spots that I can highlight.
If you go back to the slide presentation. And go down, see on the bottom in the gray, there's like a little, right next to the 75%, to the left of the 75%. To the left, right there, hit that. There you
Now
go.
just push.
And now just hit enter.
There we go. All right, so here's fourth grade. As you see in fourth grade, down in English Language Arts, that top box, our not meeting expectation is below the district, our percentage. Our percentage of not meeting expectations in math for fourth grade is also below the district. We have some bright spots. Our ELL and former ELL students, when I dig down into the data, Their average scale score in ELA and math is slightly over the district. When I drill down into the item analysis, I didn't write all of them that are over the state, but we have a few areas that are over the state. Multiplication, metric measurement, making inferences in reading and language arts are some areas that we know that we're already doing well and we're over the state there. So we have some bright spots that we need to add and grow on. As we go into third grade. So in third grade, we are at not meeting expectation, just one above in English language arts. Our former ELL students' average scale score, when I drill down in math, is 1 point under the district. Some highlights in the item analysis is that over the state average was using a number line and subtraction for math. Parts of speech and parts of speech in poems, making inferences. So we're working really hard on the academics, but we're also working equally as hard on the climate and culture. And what we know is that when we make these differences in the climate and culture, we're already making progress forward. But that progress is going to flip the switch. And that's what's going to flip our academic scores. So let's talk about how we're going to do that. Our priority goals: creating and maintaining a positive climate and culture is number one. Number two is academics, differentiating, making sure that we have interventions to meet the needs of all of the students. So how we get there in climate and culture. We have a mindfulness initiative. Mindfulness takes many different forms. Mindfulness can be teaching children to be mindful in this place where we are, being able to be present in what we're doing, to focus on what we're doing. So we had a consultant come in 3 days this summer. 11 teachers participated in that. And then she came in and spoke to the whole staff before the summer in our PD days, and then she came in our September half day. She's coming back after Christmas. 100% of the teachers are working in some way, shape, or form in the mindfulness initiative. Our climate committee looks at data monthly. We meet monthly. We also have some focus groups in the school, recess group, spirit group, those kinds of things. We look at data, attendance as a climate committee. We look at spirit. We look at behavior. We look at everything that affects the climate and culture at Rheingold. Next, we've increased adult supervision and added purposeful play options at recess. We saw that recess was a real area that was causing some issues with us. And coming in from recess, children hadn't resolved some of those issues. So adding more staff, changing the schedule, adding more staff, and then adding options for purposeful play. Last year, we had the group came in and helped us redo our library and Crossroads Connects. This year they're coming in and we're planning on doing a Gaga Ball pit. I don't know if anyone knows Gaga Ball, but it's super fun. It's this kind of odd-shaped wooden thing, and you can get as many as 30 kids in there, and you push the ball, and if it hits below your knees, you're out, but if it bounces, you're not out. It's a complicated kids game. Ashby Elementary has it, and they love it. It's a camp game. There's a lot of summer camps have Gaga Ball pits. So I've met with Roberto several times, so one of the things is a Gaga Ball pit. Another thing that we're planning to do is building a storybook trail. You've got posts with books, pages of books, and you go around and read the book as you walk around the field, so that'll be around the baseball field. And then next to the storybook posts are going to be exercise posts. So it's going to be an exercise trail too. So if you want to read, you can read. If you want an exercise, you can exercise. If you want to do a little of both, you can do a little of both. Our kindness challenge and other activities to promote kindness. We also have book buddies. So 4th grade partnered with 2nd grade, and every month they meet and they read to each other. They have our literacy coach has come up with all kinds, and our math coach, all kinds of great literacy and math activities that they do together. So every grade level is paired with another grade level, and they meet, and it's really, really building some great relationships. We also have our Trade of the Month. So we've always had the Trade of the Month, but we've done it differently this year. So this year we have two morning meetings for every grade level. They meet at the beginning of every month. You see in my Roadrunner Express when you get it. They meet at the beginning of every month to talk about the new Trade of the Month. Empathy is December. They meet at the end of the month to celebrate that Trade of the Month. Okay, and embedded in that, if you go down to the very bottom, is some of the PBIS initiatives that we have. So embedded into morning meeting is the Roadrunner of the Month, is whatever, most improved, however, whatever other kinds of certificates they want to give out. Counseling groups, we have anxiety, social groups, leadership groups, anger management groups. We have in-school therapy 5 days a week. We have 3 different organizations that come in to provide in-school therapy. One of the issues we have is finding enough space because we have so many counselors come in, and that's a good problem to have. And Crossroads Connects is helping us with that because we're moving our book room to provide more space. We have safety patrol and other activities like that to really give kids some empowerment and get some leadership. One of the things that we're doing is partnering with the Fitchburg Police Department. And at the end, we have 2 safety patrols, a fall safety patrol and a spring safety patrol. We always have a pizza party at the end of each safety patrol term. We're also going to have cupcakes with cops at the end of each safety patrol. So we'll have a bunch of police come in. They're very excited about it. We're going to have cupcakes, and we'll have gluten-free cupcakes, and we'll have all kinds of allergy-free cupcakes so that everybody can participate. Therapause, we have our PBIS initiative. We are in the state PBIS Academy, so it's a three-year initiative. We've just started it. We already have some PBIS things. We have Roadrunner certificates each day. If students are doing caught being good, if you will, they get a Roadrunner certificate. Every day I just pick during morning announcements. And then the kids come down if I call their names, and I have to now have a K1 box and a 3-4 box. K2 box and a 3-4 box, because we have so many certificates are not fitting. So I have 2 different boxes, and I pick 15 certificates, and I give stuff that we find. I have books, I have McDonald's toys, I have just other toys the PTO will find, stress balls, we have all kinds of things we pick. If we go to the next page, which is academic, we have a new literacy coach, Beth Solomito, that we stole from McKay, and she's phenomenal. She's hit the ground running and done some great things with us and for us. So we have our normal weekly GLM, the coaches and administration focus on embedded PD. Steve and I, my assistant principal, meet weekly with the coaches. We have standing coaches and admin meetings so we can talk about these meetings, talk about the data we're seeing, talk about walkthroughs, those kinds of things. We have individual teacher data meetings. We've always done them 3 times a year. This year we're doing them every other month. I met with Adam, and he came to our first set of individual data meetings, so we're modeling them after what they do at Crocker. And we've had great success for our first meetings, and we're looking forward to moving on. Weekly Google Classroom. That's 2nd grade through 4th grade is doing weekly constructed response prompts in Google Classroom. In fact, at our PTO, in our school council meeting tonight, the PTO president, who's on the school council, said, "So that's what that thing is my son comes home and shows me. He shows me this Google thing." I said, "That's Google Classroom. He does it every single week." And then we're meeting with the teachers every month to have them they have to bring a high, a middle, and a low, and we talk about those prompts, and we talk about that writing. We look at what is high right now, what is medium right now, what is a low score right now, what's that look like? Is it the same in your classroom as in your classroom? What do we need to do? What things do we need to do? So they've been really good discussions. We also are refining our Lucy Calkins in reading and writing. We have PLCs that have not started yet, but they will. Beth Solomito is going to start writing strategies, and Judy Jollymore is going to start restorative justice. We have twice monthly coaches, admin meetings with weekly walkthroughs. So we do meet a lot. But that's all good. So we're going to do learning walks, and we're looking for SEI strategies. Our ELLs and former ELLs did well, as you saw, but we still have a lot of work to do. And we need to make sure that those SEI strategies, everybody's SEI trained. So we need to make sure that we're using those strategies, we're using them well, and we're really making an impact with students. Focused instruction in centers, that's not something we have focused on before. So whole group instruction is fabulous, but then you need to break it down. And we need to work with small groups of children in reading and in math and in writing, as well as individual conferences. But those small groups are extremely important. So Beth and Joanne, my two coaches, are working very hard with teachers on small group instruction as well, and setting groups for different types of small groups, setting goals. We have Donna Simone coming in. She's helping us with our special ed teachers and our special ed inclusion initiative. And then we're focusing on project-based learning for our LP classrooms. We're seeing, we've started to see some just great improvement. The upstairs LP has been doing a volcano. They just finished volcanoes and are working on rocks, and they exploded their volcanoes. They made paper mache volcanoes. They wrote reports on volcanoes. The little LP is working on habitats right now, and that is an initiative that we're pretty proud of right now. So that's just starting. So that's Frankel.
Questions?
In a nutshell.
Very well done.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I think we're good. Okay, thank you. And last but not least, South Street Elementary School, John and his team.
I don't know if I can do two things at once.
You're a principal, you can do 30.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. Tonight we have a presentation on our current data from our spring 2017 MCAS. In addition to our current initiatives we are focusing on in our school improvement plan. Before I begin, to the left of me, Leander Corman is our new student program support administrator at South Street School, and Sue Tingus is in her second year as principal at South Street. So I'm going to begin by looking at 2017 accountability data. Because we participated in MCAS 2.0 last year, we did not get a accountability rating. So that's why you see there's no level change up there, or no accountability level rating given. And if you look down on the bottom, that's our participation rate. You can see that we had 100% participation rate in all our subgroups for both ELA and math, which is very difficult to do. That's a lot of conversations with parents, making sure kids who have attendance issues are in school, and also making sure parents aren't taking vacations during that period. So it's a lot of work to do that. The next slide I wanted to show you is our next generation MCAS results for 2017. Overall, like the state data, the majority of our students fell in the meeting expectations and the partially meeting expectations category. What we did is we dug a little bit deeper into looking at our current third grade, which are now fourth graders, from last year, to really get a sense on where they fell and how we can improve their tests for this coming year. So overall, you can see that in grade 3, what we found out that overall we had 57 students fall in partially meeting, but out of those 57 students, we identified 41 students who scored anywhere between 3 and 4 questions away from scoring in the next level. So we are targeting those 41 students so they can have a level jump, and they can hopefully meet the meeting expectations category for this coming year. That was for ELA. For mathematics, we identified 31 students who were partially meeting. Those students were about, again, 3 to 4 questions away from scoring meeting expectations. So again, we're targeting those 31 students in mathematics to make a level jump next year, or this school year. Overall, looking at the data for grade 3 in ELA and math, those students who we looked at, their weakness fell in writing. So anywhere from writing an open response question for ELA or answering an open response question for ELA, doing a narrative writing, or in mathematics, completing word problems. Those are the areas that our students fell on. So it's that writing piece that we need to focus on, which we'll talk about in a second. The next two slides are something that South Street is very proud of. This is our grade 4 data for 2017, our growth scores. So the first slide I wanted to show you is our growth for our ELA. The state on the bottom identifies typical growth anywhere between 40 and 60. As you can see, South Street had over 60% growth, and every area except for our special education subgroup, 57%. So this data really speaks to the work that we're doing here at South Street School, especially in our 4th grade, and we're very proud of that. The next slide, same thing for math. Although we weren't over 60%, we were in the 50s for almost every subgroup except for our SPED subgroup, which is continues to be the subgroup that we need to continue to focus on. It's the subgroup that we really need to continue to look at and continue to improve on. So overall, these two slides, we're very happy at South Street that our growth was either in the typical range or above the typical range for ELA and math. So we're very happy about that. So overall, our initiatives, again, like I said, we're focusing on our SPED subgroup. Again, it's the subgroup that the state has identified that's not making progress. So two things that we've done really good this year. Our general ed teachers have all experienced a 9-day coaching cycle with our math and ELA coach. So now what we're seeing is that our inclusion classrooms, those are the classrooms that have the special ed teacher and the general education teacher in there all day long. We need to do coaching cycles with them. So our coaches are in there focusing on that coaching cycle with those two teachers, making sure that those goals for the students who are on IEPs are being met, in addition to making sure those kids are also getting the grade level curriculum. So we don't want to water it down, but we also want to meet their needs. So they're focusing on making sure that those general education teachers and SPED teachers in the inclusion classroom are doing that. Also, if you skip down, I didn't put this in order, but our data meetings. So again, like last year, and this is what I contribute to a lot of the growth on from last year's MCAS scores, we meet individually with every teacher in our building. So we sit down and do our data meetings individually with every classroom teacher. It takes a long time, but it's worthwhile. When we do those meetings, we have every person involved with those students in that classroom there. We have our ELL teachers there, we have our SPED teachers there, we have our Title I teachers, in addition to any guidance or outside support that's coming in to support those kids with social emotional learning. We have everyone at the table, so when we develop those action plans for those students, everyone has a voice, and we all know exactly what each other's working on when meeting those kids' needs. In addition, again, like I said, we're focusing on writing. So right now in writing for math, we're really developing the reasoning orally and in writing for problem solving. So what students are doing is after they solve a problem, writing it out, they're getting in front of the class and orally talking about that to their students. Even though students may have the wrong answer or the right answer, those wrong answers are very valuable. So actually, sometimes when students are, presenting an answer on the overhead and they got it wrong, they see that mistake or someone else sees that mistake, that's a learning moment. So we're doing a lot of that, and we're trying to make sure every classroom is doing that daily in mathematics to really push that thinking and reasoning skills for writing and mathematics. In addition, for ELA, one thing I do want to mention is that our ELA scores in grade 4 last year for writing were higher than the state's. So that says a lot to our 4th grade team and really focusing on writing. That was one of the initiatives that they did last year. To have that, to see that data and having our writing scores higher than the state really speaks volumes to us. So again, we're talking about, working in writing and reading and writing. Again, open response questions, focusing on responding to literature in addition to vocabulary development, and going back and making sure that they're citing evidence in the text when responding either in open response or in a narrative. And again, we're focusing on writing in all areas: social studies and science, writing, math, reading. Students need to be able to explain themselves in writing, and that's what we see as one of our biggest weaknesses that we continue to focus on at South Street.
Jonathan, are you using like Lucy Calkins?
Yes, we're using
Okay,
Lucy
yeah.
Calkins like the other schools in the district. We are, yep. Sue's going to talk a little bit about our behavioral and social emotional learning.
Hi. In addition to a lot of the standard social emotional learning stuff like lunch bunch and having counselors come in and all those things that you've been hearing about all night, last year we implemented a whole school positive behavior plan, and it was called Cooperative Discipline, where our goal last year was to teach students how to make good choices, how to make, when they see something come up, how to make a choice between essentially, right or wrong, or good and not so good. And we saw a lot of improvement on that, and we also rewarded students who were making good choices. There were lots of different things that we had put in place. Over the summer, we as administrators read a book called Better Than Carrots or Sticks, and it talked a lot about restorative practices. So we decided to take what we were doing one step further, and in addition to teaching our students on how to make good choices, we also added a few things. So we still hold students accountable, we still teach them how to make appropriate choices. We have decided to improve our school and home communication around social emotional and learning and behavior. That's where teachers are reaching out to parents after every so many incidences that happen in the classroom. So for some kids, that could happen once over the whole school year, and for other kids, that might be a weekly communication. So every student is getting what they need to help them be successful. In addition, we're teaching kids peacemaking skills like conflict resolution. Teachers are acting as a mediator. We have we're trying to teach students how to become aware how their behavior affects other students in the classroom. So the teachers have a set of questions that are standard to the whole school that we kind of took from this restorative justice. And there's offender questions and there are victim questions, which is different. Last year, we seemed to always focus on the offender. And then the poor victim was just kind of left to feel like, oh, does anyone really care? So this year we're addressing both people, and we're trying, as a teacher, we're trying to bring both sides together and kind of coach the students through a resolution. And in some cases, it's worked very well. Kids have all of a sudden, hey, I like you, you're a good kid, you're a friend of mine. Now they hang out with each other. In other cases, we're still working on it. We also have asked parents to implement formal, informal meetings in their classrooms. If you see something happen, sometimes you need to stop what's going on. Let's address this really quick, and then we can move on with the rest of our academic day. And we've seen a big improvement in that. We gave, during our August PD with our teachers, we spoke about a lot about this stuff, and we also gave them strategies to build better connections with their students right up front, so that now at this time of year, when things start getting crazy, teachers can talk to students, and students are going to react a little bit different because now they look at them as someone that they can trust. I think that's it. Could Do you have any questions? Could I ask, do you use those terms, offender and victim, with kids? No, not really. Okay. Not with they're little. Yeah. I think they kind of know what it is. They're like, well, he did this to me, or Yeah. she did that, and Yeah. this is the way I felt. So we don't really use those terms Okay, necessarily. I was just curious. Yeah, because that's a little too much legal stuff.
Yeah.
Jonathan, last year you talked about the need for outside counseling.
Yes.
How does that come along this year?
So it's still happening.
Still-
We have Luck, we have Lipton, we have Multicultural, Gandara. Who else do we have? I think that's it.
But you were short counselors last year.
I think like the other schools, we weren't short yes, we were short counselors because there was a need, but now we're able to get people are getting seen, but what we're finding now is we're running into insurance issues. Some of these agencies won't take certain insurances, so we have to go elsewhere to look for insurances, or companies that will service some of our families' insurance companies that we have.
So you don't have the big backlog like
We don't have a big backlog, but, you know, space is always an issue.
Yeah.
You know, space is, you know, limited sometimes, so we're creative. Sometimes Sue will have someone in her office, I'll have someone in my office doing counseling, but we make it work. We're meeting
Third floor conference room sometimes, you know.
Yes, Andre has let us come up and use the space before.
You can use my office.
Fourth grade. We're making it work, so.
I was just saying.
I'm sure we did.
I was just
Visiting.
saying, maybe we need to look in our area and see if we can free up some space.
But we're
for
making
you.
it work. Without that counseling, some of our students wouldn't get their needs met. So it's happening, and we welcome the outside agencies in to help us with that. Leanna, do you want to talk a little bit about data team meetings?
Yep, sure. So, do you want me to do vertical?
You want to do both? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, a little more on the data team meetings, like John said. So, so those are set up 3 times a year to meet individually with every teacher. And then the special ed teachers that are assigned to co-teaching. So, so we have 2 co-teachers for each grade level. So those teachers would also be part of the data meetings that are scheduled, and then ELL teachers as well. So in the vertical data team meetings, we're getting ready to have those. Those are scheduled for next week. So those will be the vertical alignment, and again, all teachers will be involved with those, whether they're regular ed, special ed, and ELL teachers will also be part of those. And our coaches, our math, ELA coaches, administrators will be paired up to work with the teams throughout that. And then I know Sue's group is also meeting next week for the restorative justice as well. So that's the
So the really big piece with that this is vertical teaming. This is our first year doing vertical data teams. So what we're doing is we're taking a teacher from every grade level, and we're going to start looking at all our data points, start with state data, start with our local benchmark data, and then really drill down those standards all the way from kindergarten all the way to 4th grade, that we see trends. And see how those standards either grow up or move down for each grade level. So that's why we want every teacher from every grade level to see. You know, one of the areas that we did notice, for example, is in math is rounding. So rounding in 3rd and 4th grade is an issue. Well, what does that rounding look like in 2nd, in 1st, and kindergarten? So everyone's going to be at the table to kind of share and look at those standards, which we need some improvement on. And last, just the use of technology. Technology is being used every day in almost every classroom at South Street, which we're very proud of. The students love it, and the teachers love it. When I first started at South Street 8 years ago, teachers were afraid to check their emails. Now they are using something called the Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is an online site where students can go in and respond to questions that teachers pose. They can do PowerPoint presentations, slideshows in there. Teachers can actually create quizzes. And once kids go in and take those quizzes, it actually populates the data so you can see your data and the trends and to see how kids do overall. So all teachers are using that, especially in grades 2, 3, and 4. And the other piece too is on this Google platform, I put that we are using it for our special education students, which is really neat to see. It's a scaffold or a support that we provide for students. So for example, let's say you're in the 4th grade and you're reading at a 2nd grade reading level. You may have some errors if you're reading a 4th grade passage, but what we're able to do is able to upload this passage on the read and write piece on Google Classroom, and actually reads that passage to students so they can hear it, and they also can take part of the grade level curriculum and discussion that's happening. And in addition, for our students who struggle, they also can actually say what they want to write, and it will actually translate that for them into a Word document so they can actually get their thoughts down, and they can see what that looks like for writing. So that's a little bit of the technology that we're using. So, questions?
Good.
Good job.
Good, very nice.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
you. Thank you, team.
Yep.
Okay, we have some donations. We're approving a donation from the PTO at South Street for $100 that was raised for hats and mittens for students there. Then there's an approval of a donation of $500, and that is from the College Board, and that is to be used to help subsidize the cost of AP, of SAT and PSAT and AP tests for our students. There's an approval of a donation of $79.80 to be used to support a variety of student activities, and that's from LifeTouch. Schools that use LifeTouch, there's like a kickback that comes for however many photos are taken and the like. It's kind of a percentage of what is sold, and that goes into the activity account. And then finally, we're going to be, we're recommending some grants to you, and that is the title, the DSTAC grant for $127,584, and a grant for enhanced programs for students with disabilities for $7,600.
So we're moving into action items? Want to take them all? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll bundle them. 17-950, up through and including 17-955. I have a motion to accept.
Motion.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. No need for executive session. I hear a motion to
For
adjourn.
adjournment.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Andre, how are we doing that Footsteps to Brilliance?